कामारिकामां कमलासनस्थां काम्यप्रदां कङ्कणभूषहस्तां काञ्चीनिवासां कनकप्रभासां कामाक्षि देवीं कलयामि चित्ते. Namaskaram and Shubh Vijayadashami to all of you. Thank you for coming on this particular day, because it's a special day, as all of you know, and I think we have thanks to say to the source from where it all started and then the mediums from where it all manifested, because when Jyotsna and I were talking some weeks ago, and we were just discussing something else. She said one session in my house during Navaratri, and I was very selfish in the choosing of the day, because today is Vijayadashami, as all of you know, and typically for people who do Aradhana across the 9 days, even for those who put up the golus, or for people who do Kalasha Aradhana, or for people who are into the Parayanam, whichever it is, technically Mahanavami is the last night that it is performed. On Vijayadashami morning, Punav Puja is done, and after Abhijita Muhurtam, that is at midday of Vijayadashami, the puja concludes. So that is why everyone finishes Vijayadashami sadhana by evening. That is why on the way here also I got stuck, and my heart was stuck looking at the Durgas being immersed here in Alsur Lake on the way, because it's the end of this cycle. So the day becomes heavy for those who are in the deep state of connectivity with Devi. This evening is particularly heavy, so I least look forward to this evening, because just the idea of being at home when she is not there. Of course, in Tattvic sense, she's always there, but that feeling that, oh, all of that activity and that busyness for 9 days is not there on the 10th evening. The second Jyotsna said, let's do a talk, I said, let's do it on Vijayadashami evening so that I don't have to deal with this discomfort of not feeling Devi's presence. And actually through this, something else very beautiful has manifested. Navaratri sadhana, as per one school of thought, says that on Vijayadashami, in the evening at Sayam Sandhya Kalam, Aparajita Puja must be done for it to be complete, for it to be known or called as Navaratri, for the Vratam to be completed. So in that sense, we're all here completing and concluding and offering our Purnahuti for the last 9 days. So with that note of gratitude to Jyotsna for immediately agreeing. She didn't ask why also. She just said Vijayadashami, yes, and secretly I said, now I don't have to deal with this discomfort. But more than that, I think the idea that when we look at Devi Sadhana, it's important that we reflect on it now, because leading up to Navaratri, there is excitement, there is preparedness, there is enthusiasm, energy, that what am I going to do for these 9 days? Which in the past years has largely become synonymous with wearing the right colors. But contrary to popular belief, there is a little bit more to Navaratri than eating sundal and matching your outfit with Maharashtra's Hindustan Times' campaign. The days leading up to it are fantastic, but the point is, what do we do when it concludes? So our golus may have to go back, our regular lives may have to resume, but what are we going to do with what we have amassed over the last 9 days? Which is deep proximity with Devi. That is why Vijayadashami is an important point, because Vijayadashami is not the end of Navaratri. Vijayadashami is a celebration of the connection that we have with Devi, and you use that as an opening door, as a door that opens us into the world of Devi Sadhana. From now onwards, a host of festivals that come are all related to Devi. 5 days later, across eastern India, you will see Kojagiri Purnima, which is Lakshmi Puja, the day that the entire eastern part of the country stays awake through the night, waiting to welcome the goddess. Wait another 2 weeks from then, and the rest of the country celebrates Deepavali, which is also Lakshmi Puja in most parts of the country. Again, in eastern parts, it is Kali Puja. So, from here, a host of Devi Sadhana begins, because there is something amazing about this time. It is the second half of the year. It is the dark half of the year. If you take the entire year of 12 months as split it up as day and night, the first 6 months are the day of the year, and the next 6 months, the last 6 months, are the night of the year. During the night, during Ratri Kalam, Devi Aradhana is always Sreshtham. That's why you see a host of Devi related festivals coming at this time. So I'd encourage and invite you to look at this evening as an opportunity for you to further your sadhana. That is why the topic that also comes to us today is something that can be deeply meaningful to you if you are on a margam, you are on a path, trying to find your way closer to her. And as many of you know, today we're going to be talking about Kamakshi Katha, the whole idea of the story of Kamakshi. Where is Kamakshi's most focused temple? Which is also largely known for saris and for idlis. But today I will be talking about neither of them. There is something very interesting about Kanchipuram. How many of you have been? Accordingly, we will. So those of you who have been, have you ever noticed how when you enter the temple, you do not enter straight across the axis, which is typically seen. The Rajadwaram, that is the Rajagopuram, is always in line with the Dvajastambham, and behind that is the Garbhagudi. This all maintains one visual axis. This is what Agamas detail, that especially in Dakshina Bharatam, in the southern part of the countries, this is how temple structures ought to be. How is it in Kanchipuram? It's very different from this. You don't directly enter. In fact, you have to go and then you need to take a left and then you need to take another left and then you take a right and then you are facing her. So you go almost in a zigzag formation before you enter the shrine. Something interesting there. When you finish Darshanam of Kamakshi, so for those of you who have not yet been there, the next time you go, your first time itself will make you look at these things. Those of you who have already gone there, you can connect the dots. Once you finish Darshanam of Kamakshi and you go around on a parikrama, there are two paths that you will see. One is the one closest to Kamakshi. You will see a host of interesting devatas in this path. If you take the outer prakaram, which is the larger entire temple complex of Kamakshi, you will come across a host of devatas. Each of these, the ones on the inner parikrama and the outer parikrama, each of them are connected to an amazing story. Now the thing about Kamakshi is, she forms part of a trio. Have you heard some other word sounding similar to Kamakshi? Absolutely. Kamakshi, Jyotsna is not allowed to answer. You all are supposed to. You all are captive audience. Kanchi Kamakshi, Madhura Meenakshi and Kashi Vishalakshi. So as you know, all three of them are known because of the power of their eyes. Kama Akshi, Meena Akshi, Vishala Akshi. Now if you look at all three of them, the naming also has something very interesting. Because in each of these three places, there is something special about what's happening there. Let's look at the other two goddesses, then we will come to our heroine for the evening. In the case of Meenakshi in Madurai, there are two main stories associated with her. One is of Meenakshi as the daughter of Malayadhwaja Pandya, the daughter of the Pandya king, who marries Shiva there in Madurai Kshetram. The second is of a goddess called Shyamala Devi. Shyamala Devi does not have an external physical form in the temple town of Madurai, but she merges into Meenakshi Devi. So there it is two stories, two forms, one Vigraham. Come to Vishalakshi. In Kashi, there is also a goddess that is known as Annapurna. Annapurna and Vishalakshi in Kashi have two different temples, but when you are doing Aradhana of them, they both are worshipped as the same goddess. So look at this. In Meenakshi, it is two different goddesses, one Vigraham. In Vishalakshi, it is two Vigrahams, one goddess. And in Kanchi, it is again the same as Meenakshi. It is two distinct stories to do with this goddess, but one Vigraham. So most of us are familiar with the story of the form that is here, where how many of us are familiar with the Lalita Sahasranamam? So today we may make some references to the Sahasranamam. Again, if you do not know, the idea is not to intimidate you or to make you feel like you will not connect with it. The objective is to, all we are doing this evening is connecting dots and making a rangoli in our hearts. That's all we want to do. Because sadhana has this amazing capacity. It makes us realize and connect dots across everything we do and realize, oh, there is the divine at work. So Kamakshi, who we know this story, that she comes out from Chidagni Kunda Sambhuta, she comes from the fire, from the Agni that Shambhu himself is offering Ahuti into. But that is the very well-known story. Today we are going to be talking about a goddess whose form, whose story and whose presence in Kanchipuram is very magnetic. This Swarupam, to understand it, we need time and we need willingness. Because in this story, you will see some very, very interesting things happening. So this story starts with a Rakshasa doing penance. And most of you must be wondering, have I not heard the same thing again and again? Mahishasura does penance, Hiranyakashipu does penance, every single Rakshasa, it's literally the same formulaic story. then why do we have so many of these stories? And then immediately what you will see is the second they do tapas, Brahma unwittingly will come, bless them with a complicated boon, and then some Vishnu or some Shiva will Papa have to come down and take a form specifically for them. This is all the work, is it, that they have? Just think about it. If Puranas had to constantly say the same thing, are they just being redundant? Because you see versions of the same story, but they're trying to communicate certain ideas. They're trying to make us think about the different ways in which the human mind works. That is effectively all it is. So, the idea of a Rakshasa doing sadhana is the idea of a human mind that is channeling its energy. Any being on this planet that channels their energy, that energy that they are reaching out to will respond to them. I'm saying this because most of these stories have this typical setup where a Rakshasa will do penance, as I said, and Brahma will come and Brahma will honor that and say, what do you want? Isn't it unfair for them to do such a thing, for Brahma to do such a thing? The idea is this: you connect your charger into that socket, electricity will flow. You do sadhana, the divine will respond. What you do with that electricity is up to you. You want to light up the home or you want to electrocute somebody, that is your decision. So, the divine is not making a distinction between good and bad in terms of response. So, the divine will appear and say, what is it that you want? And Brahma appears to this particular Rakshasa. This Rakshasa's name is Bandhakasura. Bandhaka means to tie up. So, Bandhakasura says, I want to be strong. I want to be extremely strong, and my strength should not decrease until Pralayam. Pralayam means when the entire world is dissolved, is being dissolved. At that stage, Prakrushta Layam, that stage when everything is completely fluidic, till then I should be completely, my strength should be untouched. So Brahma gives him this varam, and the first thing that he does immediately is go and attack Indra's Loka. What does it mean to attack Indra's Loka? We will come to in some time. Now the second Indra is thrown out of his position. Indra and all his accompanying retinue of gods all have no place to go. But that's not true. The beauty of Puranic stories is, so the beauty is, it looks like Devatas have nowhere to go. They're stuck now. They've been thrown out of their kingdom, up in that realm. Where do they go? In all these stories, no, they find a way to come here. They find a way to come onto Bhulokam, because this is Sadhana Bhumi. Even the Devatas, if they need to worship, they come here. They want to do stuti, they come here, because this is the space where divinity expresses itself in completeness. Even when you go in terms of philosophical understandings, Swarga, the Lokas, all of the different kinds of heavens, if I can translate Swarga as heaven, all of them are only Bhoga Anubhava Bhumis, which means they are only meant to enjoy the fruit of the action that you did here. The action has to be done here. So we are lucky in that sense, as that is the idea that Manava Janma is beautiful. Because here, when we are doing this, we have the beauty of seeing Devatas also come and do sadhana. So the Devatas choose a particular place to do their sadhana. This place is called as Gomukh. They go there and they're very concerned. They don't know what to do. And in Gomukh, which is in the Himalayas, in this amazing mountain range, they found a small little cave. All of the Devatas are weak. Because just look at the nature of what's happening, right? Look at the trail of the story. Bandhakasura has come and he has overpowered them. Now they have left. Once they leave Swarga, they are no longer in charge. When they are no longer in charge, nobody is reporting to them. Gradually, their own strength is reducing. So, when they find themselves crawling and eventually arriving at Gomukh, they enter into a bilam. A bilam is nothing but a cave. So once they enter into this bilam, they travel into this. They go into the cave. There are a lot of beautiful yogic ideas that are being communicated here about what a cave is representing. But we'll come there. We have lots of time. So they go in and they find themselves through the bilam, through this entire journey. They, without effort, are being transported. And then they come to one particular place. The exit of that cave is this one particular place where they notice that just at the mouth of the cave, so they are exiting upwards, and at the mouth of that cave, Shiva is seated there in deep penance. And Shiva is so peaceful with a mandasmitam, with a gentle smile on his face, that he sees all of these perturbed devatas coming, and he says, where are you coming from and what's bothering you? So they relay all of Bandhakasura's troubles. It's also very, the stories are so humane because they talk about how when we are in trouble, if someone who is superior to us, somebody who can protect us, asks us, hey, what's bothering you? The ability to let go of all those pent up emotions. They let go saying, this is what he's done, that is what he's done. What do? We don't know what to do. How are we going to regain our strength? This idea troubles them. And Shiva says, look at your blessing, look at your bhagyam. You were thrown out of Swargam and you landed into this Mahabilam. This Bilam, this cave that you are now about to exit from, this cave is such, the exit point of this cave is such an extraordinary spot that I myself have benefited from being here. In fact, I am concluding my tapas after receiving something from here. So the Devatas are stunned. This is also how recommendations work, right? When somebody tells us, listen, I went there and this happened to me, immediately we become attentive saying, oh, hauda, matte nanu hogtini. So in this moment, the Devatas ask, what did you come here to do tapas for? And Shiva narrates another story to them. I will narrate that story on one condition. You won't forget the main story, no? I'm going to trust you and take you on this. So Shiva begins a very beautiful story now about how once when he was in Kailasa, at that point, he took it upon himself to observe one group of munis. These munis were deep in their sadhana, but they had a lot of understanding of ritual. But with unchecked amount of constant ritualism comes arrogance. So they had this idea that yes, we know how to do Agnihotram and nobody can do it the way we do. There is nothing superior to our karma. It happens. If you want to know how seriously it happens, just open Instagram after Navaratri. The pride that we feel in sadhana is always detrimental. It's wonderful to feel grateful about it, but to advertise our sadhana to the world always gets checked because this is happening because of the grace from above. So Shiva decides to come and control the Muni's pride. So he comes to where the Munis are, which is a place again in the mountains, and which is in modern day Uttarakhand. This is in a place called Jageshwar. Once he arrives here, he doesn't come in his regular costume. He comes as a Bhikshatanar. Bhikshatanar is somebody who has come to ask for Bhiksha. And he comes along with his dear friend Vishnu. And when Shiva becomes Bhikshatanar, he tells Vishnu, you take on the form of Mohini and you come with me. So they both enter into this place. And as they do that, once Shiva enters, all of these yogis, these munis, who are all here, they are lost in their karma. They are performing their Agnihotrams, deeply involved in their rituals. All the Muni Patnis are smitten deeply by Bhikshatanar because he is Sundareshwara. So beautiful to look at. So, in this moment, all the Munis are telling each other, look at our wives, they have no self-control, they are all just staring like this at this man. Then they notice Mohini and the same happens to them. But hypocrisy of the mind is such that we don't like to point at what we are doing. We only want to attack what the outside world is doing. So immediately, they look at their wives, they get irritated with them, and then they take it upon themselves to punish Shiva because they said this Bhikshatanar is the reason that our wives have now these minds that are so shaky. So they try all kinds of things, all kinds of ways to attack Shiva. That story goes on. It's a very elaborate story in itself. But at the end, two things happen. One, Shiva quells their pride. And Shiva dances for them as Nataraja. And with that, their arrogance is reduced where they recognize that the one who has come is the Lord of the universe, putting their own idea of their hyper-ritualism into check. The second thing that happens is connected to this story. These Munis, when they were trying to subdue, when they were trying to attack this Bhikshatanar, they give him a curse. And they give him this curse saying, your manhood will disappear because the presence of you is bothering, is causing all kinds of sentiments, is arousing various kinds of sentiments in our wives. So I curse you, all of us curse you, that your manhood will disappear. So Shiva's manhood in this context disappears. It's important to understand this portion of the story very carefully, because if we don't, we can quickly make this into a vulgar interpretation. The idea here of Shiva's manhood is represented in the word lingam. So Shiva in this context, the Grantham says, becomes lingahinam. He becomes that without a gender. This has very beautiful connotations. If you look at it physically, it is about one organ from the body falling and leaving his body because of a curse. If you look at it in terms of philosophy, it's talking about the idea that Shiva is not masculine, Shiva is not feminine, Shiva is beyond gender. But that is Tattva. Shiva honors that curse in terms of the story. And because he becomes Lingahinam, he becomes one without the Lingam, he comes to reclaim that form. He comes to this bilam and he does tapas here and he regains that manhood and emerges as a masculine force. Once he emerges here as a masculine force, that same time is what coincided with the Devatas arriving here. So he said, I just exited from the Mahabilam, I'm leaving this bilam because what I came here to get, I got that in completion. That is an indication of the place that we are traveling to. Today we are traveling to that Mahabilam, and the idea is when you physically go there, remember that idea. That whatever you go there and seek, you will receive it in Koti Gunitam. You will receive it in an endless measure. Shiva received it in abundance and Shiva was pleased. Now he narrates all of this to the Devatas and they say, what is so sacred about this place? How is it that you sat here and what you were cursed to lose, you regained it sitting here? So Shiva tells them something very beautiful. He says, I want you to envision, Devatas, that this entire earth is a cow. The entire earth takes the form of a cow. For those of you who are familiar with the Srimad Bhagavatam, you will connect to this. Because in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhudevi, the goddess of the earth, the entire personification of Bhumandalam, takes the form of a cow and goes to Vaikuntha. And she says, the weight of adharma is growing on my back, please come. And then Narayana comes as Krishna and various avatars. So the idea that the entire Bhumandalam is a cow, is very beautifully depicted here, in which Shiva now starts to tell the Devatas which part of the cow, of this earthly cow, corresponds to which kshetram. So for example, he says Go Mukha. The name itself is saying it. Go, cow, Mukha, the face, is where in the Himalayas. He gives them various beautiful names, beautiful ideas of where which kshetra is. The idea is, if you go to that particular kshetra, the symbolism is this, you go to that kshetra and you do that sadhana, the chakras in that portion of your body get activated. Knowingly, unknowingly, once you go to Gomukha, the chakras here, which is the chakra here in the face? Ajna chakra. That gets activated over there. So this is one very beautiful idea in which he says Gomukha is her face, Himalayas form her throat, Kedara Bhumi, Kedaranatha, is her stomach or her udara. This is also an important lesson currently given the environmental crisis in Kedarnath, where it is trashed beyond measure because of the use of plastics and a host of other single-use disposables. It's important for us to remember that when we go to a kshetra like that, if we don't honor that kshetra, this is her stomach. It is effectively putting plastic and other things into the stomach of the goddess herself. That is the indication that we have to receive from this. So Kedara Bhumi represents the udaram, or the stomach of the earth. Shripura represents her head. What is Shripura? We'll come to later. Further, her backbone, this cow's backbone, is Varanasi. Kamalayam or Tiruvarur is her bottom, Goprishtham. The Goprishtham, the hind portion of a cow, is considered the most sacred. If you've ever seen anybody, if you've seen a cow on the road, if you've ever seen anybody wanting to touch that cow, they'll always touch the hind portion of it because that is Lakshmi's Sthana. So that is Tiruvarur in Tamil Nadu. And here, the place that we are, this exit of the Mahabilam, this portion of the entire cow's body corresponds to the Nabhi, corresponds to the navel. This portion where we are standing is where she nourishes the entire universe from. Who she? Who she? The cow. I didn't say which she. I am very mindful of why I didn't say it. You think about which she. Shiva gives them that indication. They are saying from here she nourishes the entire Bhumandalas and here she takes care of her children's needs. So you have come here now. Now you do sadhana. How should we do sadhana? This conversation is so beautiful because when you are in Sharanagati Bhavam, when you are seeking, you will ask. And when you ask, you will ask with the humility that what is asked of you, you will do. At that point, you will not put your logical mind into reasoning. That is why they say a guru appears only when a shishya is ready. Because if the same guru comes when the shishya is not ready, even if they give you the right advice, you will question it. You will cross-question it and say, but why should I do this? In this moment, he tells them, I want you to become parrots, each of you. And there is a champaka tree very close by. Go and sit on that champaka tree and go and do aradhana of her. Which her? That her which is sustaining these worlds, that her whose maximum power is felt at the exit of this bilam, sit here in this champaka tree close to this place and do her sadhana, she will come. So the devatas take this advice and they become parrots and they do sadhana for years at a stretch. And at the end of those years, many, many years, different versions talk about how many, but for us the detail is less important than what it's communicating. At the end of some prolonged period of time, she does come. And she takes on a very, very interesting form. From here, the forms that come in this story, you count and see how many of them are there. So, the first Swarupam that emerges, seeing all these devatas, she looks, she sits, and she thinks to herself, I have come for their sake. Who is bothering these devatas? You promised you won't forget the real story. What's the Rakshasa's name? This is not Bandas. Bandasura is Bandhakasura. Bandhakasura had a particular boon. He had a caveat. What was that? Till Pralayam comes, his strength should not decrease. So here's the thing. He asked for that boon very intelligently. Pralayam was nowhere in sight. He had fantastic mathematical ability. So he could understand when Pralayam was about to come, and based on that he said, okay, if Pralayam is not going to come till then and we are far away from that, I can remain strong till then. Now she has come. Pralayam is nowhere close by. What will she do? For this, she does something. She looks at the devatas and looks at their sorrow. This, if you understand this portion of the story, you will understand what he means in the Bhagavad Gita when he says, I will come yuge yuge sambhavami yuge yuge. Yugam is not the mathematical count. He is not waiting for the calendar to flip to 1st January to come. Any prolonged period of suffering where adharma rises and dharma declines is called also as a yuga. So when that portion increases for the devatas, she now says, I know it's not time for pralayam, but I will create a pralayam right now. So all she does is close her eyes. Look at this story. We are talking about one goddess whose entire name is communicating the power of her eyes. All the work she does with her eyes. She just closes her eyes. With the closing of her eyes, all the worlds go inside her. Now when all the worlds go inside her, this is also a pralayam. This is called as Atyantika pralayam. There are different kinds of pralayams that happen. There is a Maha pralayam and various other kinds. There is a Kama pralayam. This is called as an Atyantika pralayam. It's very unexpected for one. And now all the worlds have gone into her. Nothing is there except her. It's going into deep yogic tattva. And now again, she opens her eyes. This closing and this opening is beautifully depicted in the Lalita Sahasranamam, because once she reopens, all of Srishti starts again. When she closes, everything goes back into her. Unmesha nimishotpanna vipanna bhuvanavalihi. All the worlds go in when she closes, all the worlds come out when she opens, because her eyes contain the power of creation, dissolution and everything in between. That is why they said just worship her eyes. That's why they gave her so many names with eyes. But now she absorbed everything in, and if you're listening to the story carefully, which I really hope you are, we have an issue. Everything has gone in. Bandhakasura is part of what? Everything that went in. But now when she opened, he came back. How does this work? The idea of pralayam is very beautiful. The idea of pralayam is not a full stop. It's not that everything dissolves and then she starts a brand new chapter. When she absorbs everything into herself, this is the concept of time. That when everything goes back to its source at the end of 4 yugas, when everything goes back, at that point, every jiva's karma becomes a seed. And she keeps a record of that. And once she recreates, she puts those same seeds again. So all of what we have done, this idea talks about how it's not, oh, once Kali comes, anyway Kali Yuga, everything will be destroyed. if everything is destroyed, doesn't mean our karmas are destroyed. What it means is the external world will collapse, but what we have done, we will still come back to do. So now she is recreated, and Bandhakasura also has karma, so he's come back. So now once Bandhakasura has come back, she has to now first, before she addresses him, she has just observed all of this. She's closed the office for the day. So she needs to restart the office the next morning all over again. For that, the office needs certain heads to take care of three things. 1, creation. 2, sustenance. 3, dissolution. By now you know who the heads of the offices are handled by, Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara. So she gives rise to them again with her eyes. From one eye she creates Brahma, from another eye she creates Vishnu, and from this eye she creates Shiva. Brahma is depicted by the syllable Ka, by the Akshara Ka, Vishnu by the syllable A, because A shows sustenance. It's the idea of expansion, which is what sustenance is always about. Ka, A and Shiva is depicted through the syllable Ma. Ka, A, Ma, the one who created these three from her eyes, that she is known as Kamakshi. One beautiful idea of that name. So when you say that name, you are thinking of the one who created the sustainer, the creator, the sustainer and the dissolver from her eyes alone. So now they have come, and they have come as children. So she gives them milk. Stanya Kshiram she gives them. She gives them that breast milk. And for each of them, the breast milk is different. This is when you have to understand the story is not being literal. How can one mother have different breast milk for 3 children? The idea is her Stanya Kshiram, her breast milk is knowledge. Those who drink that knowledge of the self, will be able to do what they are meant to do. That is why Adi Shankaracharya also begged. This is why Kanchi Mahapariva also said, Amma, give me a drop of that Kshiram. Because that Kshiram for Brahma came as Sthiti Vidyatmika Kshira. Sorry, Srishti Vidyatmika Kshira. How to create, the knowledge of how to create, he didn't need a textbook or a guidebook on how to do it. When he drank that milk from the mother, he knew how to create. Similarly for Vishnu, it is Sthiti. She gave him that Kshiram which had all the knowledge of how he had to create. And for Rudra, she gave him all of the knowledge of how to dissolve. So Srishti, Sthiti and Laya, these three have drunk that milk in abundance, and now they are ready to perform their tasks. So they go about all of this. All of Srishti is recreated, and now she goes to do what she came for. What did she come for? So she came to kill Bandhakasura to respond to the Devata's plea. Up till now, I didn't describe any form. The form that came was that of a 9-year-old girl. A 9-year-old girl came, did all of this, and now stepped out straight to the place where Bandhakasura was. The Grantham that talks about this talks about the way in which she killed Bandhakasura, and if we are careful, we will not make the mistake of interpreting it wrong. It says, when she went to kill Bandhakasura, this little girl, now, who had 2 hands, then sprouted 4, then 6, then 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and finally 18 hands. With 18 hands holding 18 different kinds of ayudhas, this Kanya suddenly became Ashtabhuja Durga. So this form went straight to the place Bandhakasura was and killed him along with his family, along with his children, along with his relatives, along with everybody living with him. Little cruel, little gruesome, right? Rakshasa Samharam is a very important concept to understand. Rakshasa Samharam, the idea of killing of a Rakshasa, means for a negative quality to go, it's not that easy. If it has any trace or any hints left within us, it will lift its head up again. So the idea of saying that she killed along with Samoola Nashanam, completely she killed, is to say that once she appears, if our sadhana has been sincere, once she appears, she will not say, I will temporarily pull you out of this problem and then you can go back to it from tomorrow. She will remove that problem from our mind altogether. And she did that, and she did something very interesting after that. She brought, pulling by his head, she brought Bandhakasura's dead body and she brought it back to the same place this Bilam, where the story started. When she went to kill, she was a 18-armed Ashtadhashabhuja Durga. Now she came back as a Kanya. Kanya to Durga, Durga back to Kanya. She is up to something. And as she came, all the Devatas are looking at her now and they're all stunned. They're all wondering, firstly, who is she? Because they only saw the girl at work. They only saw this girl emerge and suddenly this girl has left. Because everything else that happened, creating of Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, the Devatas don't get to see that. That happens at a plane that is beyond this kind of perceptive understanding. So, in this context, for her to do this, they don't know who she is, they don't recognize her. So they ask her, Amma, who are you? She said, that I'll tell you. Currently, I have something else that you need to attend to. Take this dead body and dig a pit and bury this dead body over there of Bandhakasura, and the place where you bury that dead body, I want you to erect a stambam, a pillar of victory that will be called as the Vijayastambham. See, we are telling this story on Vijayadashami and we are talking about a Vijayastambham. So, the Devatas immediately take on this task. They dig a pit. She points to one particular direction. That pit is still there, that Vijayastambham is still there. I'll tell you where it is and you'll see it when you go to the temple the next time. So, they dig up this pit. She is currently just asked them to do it. She is not participating in this activity externally. Now, they start to do this. They are burying the body of this Rakshasa, and plot may twist. One new Rakshasa comes. When they are digging up, one new Rakshasa comes, whose name is Mallaka. Mallaka, as soon as he comes, he goes on and he starts to attack each of the Devatas. The Devatas have one very beautiful quality. When they are in trouble, they will say Narayana Rakshamam, Keshava Rakshamam. So immediately Narayana descends. Narayana comes and he sees this Mallaka causing all of this trouble. So with one slash of the Sudarshana Chakram, Mallaka is gone. Mallaka is gone, but Mallaka's blood has dropped. Mallaka's blood has dropped and multiple Mallakas have come. Sounding familiar? Which Rakshasa has a similar story? Raktabija. Similar ideas here. So Mallakas have come in multiple number, and now Narayana is wondering what to do. And Narayana has an eternal friend who is also constantly going to keep him company. Who is that? Shiva. So he immediately calls Shiva and he says, look, at Mallakas, the multiple number of Mallakas that are coming, I need you to help. So Shiva takes in that moment one strand of his Jata Jotam and he smashes it on the ground. The second he smashes one strand of his hair, two Bhutas come, because Shiva is Bhutanayaka. Bhuta means don't imagine some scary looking horrific figure. Bhuta is some elemental being. Two forces come, one masculine, one feminine. And both of these go and attack all the Mallakas, and they drink up the blood and ensure that no more blood falls onto the ground, so that this entire Mallaka problem is solved at the root. Now they do that, and as soon as they've done that, all the Devatas are thinking, okay, everything is alright. Except that these two Bhutas who went from Shiva's side, they drank so much of Mallaka's blood that they lost discretion of who is good and who is bad anymore. So with that intoxicated state, they went to attack Vishnu. And Vishnu, by that point, had had enough. So he sat, and he sat so strongly that he tied them there, and he didn't kill them because they came for a good cause. When the intent is sincere and despite that we make a mistake, then there is always a remedial approach that happens. They made a mistake. We also make mistakes in our sadhana, presumably. But when the intent is sincere, Paramatma corrects what we did wrong and ensures that we find our way back to him. So Vishnu sat down and he didn't kill them, but he controlled them, he subdued them because they were going crazy, both of these ganas. The second they were subdued and that entire intoxication left them, they looked at each other and they said, what did we just do? Did we try to attack Janardana? What a terrible thing we have done. And in that regret, they were wondering, how do we get over this dosha? Because Bhagavat Ninda, the idea of criticizing the divine, is least favorable for a sadhaka. Because a sadhaka is in a state of love with the divine. When you are in a state of love with someone, you don't have to think as far as the divine. When you fight with someone you love and you realize that you did something wrong, does that thought bother you or does it not? That guilt is what they have. So they wonder, how do we get over this guilt? How do we do How do we repent? They start to repent. That repentance is called Paschattapam. Paschattapam, look at the beautiful words. Paschattapam is repentance, and then you atone for what you have done. If you go to this particular place, you have a bath over here, you will have, this is Prayashchittam for that particular activity. I don't need to explain this in so much detail. Same Kanchipuram, you've seen those two lizards on top of the Varadarajaswamy Perumal temple. Those lizards are more popular than Perumal because everybody thinks it's some extraordinary Prayashchitta karma. Prayashchitta means nothing without Paschattapa. Atonement means nothing without repentance. If you think I can do this, but tomorrow I can anyway going to Kashi, I can do Ganga Snanam, it will nullify. It doesn't work like that. You need to repent, and when you repent, some beautiful way will appear in front of you by which you can atone and say, I don't want to do this ever again. That is what repentance is. I made a mistake. I don't want to repeat this mistake. So these bhutas are thinking this, and Vishnu takes pity on them and he says, Shiva, they're so sincerely repenting what they have done that they tried to attack me. Take pity on them, Shiva. Give them a way out. So Shiva, who is right there watching this entire thing, he smiles, not with one, not with two, but with all 5 of his faces. Shiva has 5 faces. Sadyojata, Vamadeva, Aghora, Tatpurusha, Ishana. This is Panchamukheshwara. From 5 faces he smiles and he says, let them have a bath. And I will ask Ganga from my head to come now and to create a small Kalyani, a small pool, from where let them go and take a dip in that Kalyani, and they will be free of that dosham of attacking Narayana. Shiva had how many faces, I said? 5. So from all of them, Ganga came. So this little pond that came is known as the Panchatirtha. This is behind the Kamakshi Alayam in Kanchipuram that you will see till today. So then there is also, the Grantham talks about how if you go to different banks or different edges of this Tirtham, what kind of dosham you can rid yourself of. But I will not go into those details because we are still in the middle of the story. We left all this activity is happening over here. Someone is not actively participating in that. Who's that? Brahmanu. Our main heroine, yeah? Ah, she has put all these devatas to work. Where is she? That is how she works in the body. She is not actively sitting here with the sugarcane pasham and the 5 arrows and saying, I will sign on your office checks. She is getting us to do the work. That is the devatas. The devatas are the sense organs that are here at work. But these sense organs remember whose work they are doing. So they finish all of this. They erect that stambham in that place. When you enter the Sannidhi of Kamakshi. So when you enter the main temple, to your left is where you have to turn. Once you turn on the left, you will see a massive pillar, the Dvajastambham. It's not the Dvajastambham, it is the Vijayastambham. You have to cross that and then go closer to the Alayam, to the Sannidhi, to the main shrine of the goddess. I'm saying this so that next time when you enter, you will recognize that, oh, this is the place where Bandhakasura was buried and all of this happened. And Vishnu, also the Vishnu who came and sat and he subdued these 2 bhutas, he is also there, not very far from that. Outside of this, he is there as Bhuta Baddha Janardana. Very close to where this Vishnu is, there is a Panchamukheshwara, a 5-headed Shiva from who Ganga came. All of what happened is physically there. You go there and do sadhana. If there is a negative tendency that keeps coming up, Bhuta Baddha Janardana will control it. Bhuta Baddha Janardana's shrine is very interesting. It's over 2 floors in the temple. So when you get a chance, they open the top floor only on certain days. So if you're lucky, you'll have a chance to see it on the upper floors, but he's very much accessible and gives darshanam on the ground floor. So now all of this is set up there. We come back to the main place, to the main goddess who has asked all of them to do the work. What is she doing? She's chilling, huh? No. She, after putting them to work, when they have finished this, they are now ready to receive her next instruction. She says, up till now I was present in this bilam. This is the idea of a kshetra. When you go to a kshetra, remember the ground is energized. We have said this on countless occasions and no amount of saying it is ever enough. Because all of what we are talking about up till now, there is no idol. The idols have come later. The vigrahas have come later. The point is that ground is powerful. That ground marks the space of the Mahabilam, the great exit from the cave. That Mahabilam, she said, I was present there in a Sukshma Swarupa, in a subtle form that nobody could see. I manifested now. I took a form. for your sake. Now, I will stay in this place. I will give darshanam constantly. For that, you must make arrangements for me to be here. So the devatas are ready. And they say, what should we do? So she says, the first thing that you do is, above the mouth of the cave, erect a pitham, create a platform. On that platform, have 24 different pillars. You know why 24? Because there are 24 syllables of the Gayatri mantra. So this mantapa that you erect will be called as the Gayatri mantapa. In that Gayatri mantapa, in the central portion of that Gayatri mantapa, erect one platform. Within that one platform, embed, meaning pour your own Shakti of the Pranava, of the Omkaram into that place. Into that sanctified space, create a structure. That structure should have doors. This entire 24 pillared platform that you create should be supported below by 6 pillars. All of these have beautiful symbolisms. The 6 here is Shadamnaya or Shanmata in one interpretation. The 6 different forms of divinity. All of this is symbolic. So once you have done this and in that central portion you have created a structure that has a door, go there, open those doors and I will go and sit there. The whole night the doors must be closed. And you must do sadhana. You must not close the doors and go home. You must sit there the whole night once I have gone in and the doors are closed, and you must worship me. In the morning, when you open the doors, you will see who I am. That was all of this is an elaborate answer to what? The question that they asked, who are you? At any point in your spiritual journey, if you ask the divine, who are you? In a sincere ask, you actually want to know who they are or what the divine is, the divine will answer that question. The divine took this effort. Devi took this effort because they asked a question. So now they do as told, and it is night time. It also happens to be a very special full moon night when this happens. Night time, Ratri. Devi's Aradhana has always a powerful connect to Ratri Kala. So that whole night, when it is Purnima, Purnima is anyway her Tithi. In that Purnamasi, in a very special month, which I will tell you about in just a minute, the whole night they do Aradhana. That's the sun. Once the sun has risen, they're all excited now because that's when they're about to get that answer of who is she. So, look at what has happened up till now. A girl emerged, manifested from the cave, went out as 18 armed, killed a Rakshasa, came back as a girl, went inside a mandiram that she had erected for herself, and now she is about to reveal who she is. Up till now, she has not announced it in any part at all. The next morning, when they open the Swarupam, the doors, the Swarupam that they see is a very, very beautiful Swarupam. If you are all willing, can we meditate on that form, portion by portion, as it appears? So for this portion, we will take a little bit of help from the Ashtotram, from different names of the goddess, describing her head to toe. What I will do is, I will just read out that corresponding name. In addition to what that name means, this will aid your visualization process. The idea is, if you feel called out to, you can close your eyes and envision this. Because as we are telling this story, if that form even vaguely forms in your mind, the objective of this story will be complete. The objective is to leave you with a whiff of that divinity, the same form that appeared to the Devatas in the morning. This Swarupam is a very interesting form that they noticed from head to toe. When it comes to feminine forms of the goddess, we always start our meditation beginning with the head and concluding with the toe, because our ultimate drishti should be at her padas. That is why the Lalita Sahasranamam follows the same rule as well, that it starts off beginning talking about her kiritam and then ends with her padam. So we will follow the same thing to see what is the Swarupam that the Devatas saw. And before we get into that dhyanam, the day that this happened, the particular name is also given that this happened in Shri Mukha Nama Samvatsaram. Shri Mukha was the name of the year. In that year, when in Falguna Masam, the morning after Purnima, meaning Krishna Paksha Padyami or Pratipada, when Purva Falguni Nakshatram was in the sky. Purva Falguni Nakshatram is Devi's Nakshatram. When this Nakshatram was ruling is when they opened the doors. This is basically her birthday that I gave you in this many coordinates. This birthday is still celebrated in Kanchipuram. So, the Swarupam that they saw early in the morning, after a night full of sadhana. Ratri sadhana leads to Pratakala Jnanodayam. That there is a dawn of knowledge when there is a night of sadhana. That is what is indicated here. And the Swarupam that the Devatas saw first was light, because it is always Jyotis Swarupam, Jyotis Swarupini, because she is feminine. From light comes a form. Beginning with that, they first saw that Kiritam, they saw that crown that has diamonds and rubies of every kind glowing in its essence. Vajramanikya Kataka Kiritayai Namo Namaha. From the Kiritam, their focus went to her forehead. The forehead it's smeared with the fragrance of Kasturi. Kasturi Tilakollasi Nitilayai Namo Namaha. Atop that Kasturi is 3 Vibhuti Rekhas on top of it. That Vibhuti that they saw is Bhasma Rekhankitalasan Mastakayai Namo Namaha. Below that forehead, they noticed the eyes of the goddess that emerged. Those eyes were so beautiful that there were no words given to describe it. But they said that the closest we can come is to calling these as Champaka flowers that are beginning to open. That is why these eyes are called as Vikachambhoruhadala Lochanaye Namo Namaha. Below the eyes came the nose. The nose itself looked like another kind of Champaka flower, so proportionate, so perfectly matching the eyes. And this nose was so slender and is said, Sharat Champeya Pushpabha Nasikaye Namo Namaha. After this came the eyes, the nose, and then the gaze shifted to the earrings and the cheeks that came. The cheeks were glowing like a mirror because of all the gems on the earrings, on the crown, on all the facial portions were all being reflected in the light of the cheeks. That is why the cheeks looked like a mirror. Manidarpana Sankasha Kapolaye Namo Namaha. Next, the Devatas saw the earrings of this goddess that were glowing like molten gold. Lasat Kanchana Tatanka Yugalaye Namo Namaha. Then they looked at that beautiful smiling face, that smiling mouth, the lips that were so gentle but were also smiling. And not only were they smiling, they were also chewing something. They were chewing tambulam, making the entire mouth red in appearance. And that is why this portion the Devatas saw as Tambula Puri Tasmera Vadanaye Namo Namaha. That mouth that was chewing that tambulam had teeth that looked like a well-ripened pomegranate fruit seed. Supakvadadimi bija radanaye namo namaha. And below that, they saw that chin which had no comparison. So that is why a comparison is not even mentioned in this portion. And below that chin, they saw the neck that looked slender, as if it was an elephant's trunk, because an elephant has a very slender neck. Kambupuga samachaya kandharaye namo namaha. And on that neck, they saw so many garlands of pearls resting and taking support on that neck. Sthula mukta phaladara suharaye namo namaha. And in the middle of that neck was glowing the Mangalyam, the Mangal Sutram. That Mangal Sutram, which was tied by Shiva or Girisha, Girisha Baddha Mangalya Mangalaye namo namaha. Then their focus shifted to her 4 hands. And those 4 hands were so beautiful that they just used one word for it. Ramaniya Chaturbahu Samyuktaye Namo Namaha. Those 4 hands each had various ornaments within them. One was holding the Pasha. The top hands were holding the Pasha, which is a gourd, and the Ankusha, which is a noose. And the hands in front were holding the sugarcane bow and 5 flower arrows. This entire form then gave them further darshanam to the hips. The hips were so slender that nobody had ever seen something so beautiful, because she was the very epitome of perfection. Saubhagyajata Shringara Madhyamaye Namo Namaha. Wearing divine ornaments on her being. Divya Bhushana Sandoha Ranjitaye Namo Namaha. The entire Swarupam, head to toe, be it the hips, be it the thighs, be it the knees, be it the calves, be it the ankles, every portion of the goddess was glowing, not just from external gems and from external ornaments that she was wearing, which she was wearing incomplete, but they were glowing from within. And then their gaze finally rested on those 2 feet. Those 2 feet were so alluring, so captivating to look at, that they looked as if 2 rubies had been placed in the position of her 10 toes. And that Swarupam is where their gaze ultimately rested. That Swarupam, Supadmaraga Sankasha Charanaye Namo Namaha. Although they looked like rubies, they were so delicate. Parijata Gunadhikya Padabjaye Namo Namaha. More delicate than a Parijata flower. Because if you touch a Parijata flower, it melts, or it gets crumpled. That's how delicate those feet were. This Swarupam, head to toe, they saw, and then the Devata's question of who this is was answered. The Swarupam that you all saw presumably matches the Swarupam that is seated here for you all. That Swarupam is Kamakshi Parabhattarika. That Swarupam, holding the sugarcane bow, the Panchabanas, the Pasha and the Ankusha, is the same Swarupam that went in as a little girl and came out as this Swarupam. When she went in, then also she was beautiful as Bala Tripura Sundari. Now when she came out, she emerged as Lalita Tripura Sundari. Bala, Lalita are changing. What is not changing? Tripura Sundari is not changing. The most beautiful form in the 3 worlds. What Sundari means? Last year in Navaratri, here only we spoke about Saundarya Lahari in equal detail. So you can, just for those of you who are present, you can connect to what that means about the idea of beauty. It is not just the physical beauty. The physical beauty is the gateway into the inner beauty that she is. And now, once she was here, she smiled at the Devatas and she said, I will stay back here. I will eternally stay back here. And what was the name that she first took when she created Brahma, Vishnu and Maheshwara? Have you seen this name anywhere in the Lalita Sahasranama? Kamakshi Kamadai. Have you observed the Lalita Sahasranamam? In the first few namams, starting with Udyat Bhanu Sahasrabha, the one who was glowing like the rising sun. From there onwards, it describes how Lalita emerges. This is a different story, so I'm not going into it. But my objective of saying this is, if you observe the names that come there, they describe the form. They describe how Devi is appearing. Chidagni Kunda Sambhuta, all of this is just describing how she is appearing. Up till from then, there is no name that is giving a comprehensive view of a complete form. Do you agree or disagree? Actually, to have an opinion, you have to chant it to check. Because we have not chanted it with that idea. We have not known that. So shall we look at it from that angle? I will just lead that portion. You tell me if any namam speaks to you as if the full form is appearing. Udyat Bhanu Sahasrabha Chaturbahu Samanvita. 4 hands. Ragaswarupa Pashadhya Krodhakara Ankushojwala Manorupekshukodanda Panchatanmatra Saika Nijaruna Prabhapura Majjad Brahmanda Mandala. The one who is filling the universe with her red light. All of this and more. Nijaruna Prabhapura Majjad Brahmanda Mandala Champaka Shoka Punnaga Saugandhikala Satkacha. All of this is describing physical portion by portion by portion. But it is only to understand in completion what this name means. The only namam, starting with the beginning till here, the only namam that gives a complete form that you just visualized is Kamakshi. Because when you say Kamakshi, you are not only thinking of the eyes, you are thinking of this entire form. That comes here. So what we are calling as Lalita Sahasranamam is also Kamakshi Sahasranamam. Because the first name that appears describing the Swarupam of the goddess is Kamakshi. That, when you remember, you will remember that Lalita and Kamakshi are one and the same. Next time you read Sahasranamam, read it with that bhava. Because this story is different does not mean the goddess is different. That is the objective of saying it. So tomorrow morning, hopefully your Lalita Sahasranamam books have not gone into the cupboard because Vijayadashami is finishing. They need to return with you. This is still sadhana kalam that is going on. When you pick it up, see and just pay attention to the krama. The beauty comes when you experience things as you are doing it. Telling things lasts up to a point. The message that you have to pick up, those of you who chant the Sahasranamam will pick it up. Because here, when we internalize and we do something, we recognize its power. So now this goddess has emerged. And once she has emerged, on that chosen day, she says, let a puja vidhanam be set up for me. Let somebody who knows how to worship me, worship me. Everything she says in codes only. Let somebody who knows how to worship me. What does that mean? We also know how to worship her, no? We make sundal for 9 nights. That protein-rich diet, nicely she'll have. What we mean by let somebody who knows how to worship me, what she means is, let somebody who knows my Sat Swarupam, somebody who understands me entirely. Who is that person who understands her entirely? Shiva himself. Nobody except Shiva can understand her. Nobody except her can understand him. That is their beauty. So, Shiva now appears and he says, I will set up the entire puja vidhanam of how she ought to be worshipped over here. And now, this particular event happened in Satyuga, in the first yuga. I will come back when the next yuga comes. At that point, I will come as Bhargava Rama. Bhargava Rama is another name for Parashurama. I will come then and I will reinstate how she has to be worshipped in that yuga. I will come in the third yuga. What is the third yuga? Dwapara Yuga. I will come in Dwapara Yuga as Dhaumya Muni. Dhaumya Muni, for those of you familiar with the Mahabharata, is the same Muni who accompanies Yudhishthira, who is with them during their trying times in the palace and in the forest. This is Dhaumya Muni. Shiva says, I will come back then as Dhaumya Muni. So, in Satyuga, he appears first time as Durvasa Muni. After this, the next yuga, he says, I will come back as Parashurama. In the third yuga, in Dwapara, I will come as Dhaumya. And in Kali Yuga, when I will tell you later. Because that's a very beautiful story in itself. 4 yugas, I will come. Nobody but me will be able to show you how to find her. That is why Shivaya Gurave Namaha. Want to worship her? He is the methodology. He is the only one. He is the Guru. Vishnu and Shiva become Gurus for Devi Aradhana. Who gave the Lalita Sahasranamam to Agastya Muni? Hayagriva as a form of Vishnu. That is why that Swarupam is there in Kanchipuram. This is there in Upanishad Brahmendra Swami's Matha, where you will see there are 2 lingas. Kanchi Mahapariva found this. Kanchi Mahapariva is repeatedly coming today because we cannot talk of Kamakshi Katha without talking about him. So, he identified the spot with his tapas. This is what tapas does. When we go to a kshetra, especially of late, there is this obsession of, I want all the information, please tell me where all I can go. And this obsession of accumulating textbook knowledge and then checking it off, saying, oh yes, I went to the place where Krishna ate, where Krishna broke this dahi handi. I went to the place where this happened. What did you go there and do? That is the question to ask. When you enter a kshetra, allow the kshetra to reveal itself to you. Do not go there with 45 things to see. You will see nothing. When tapas alone can reveal something to you, you go there, you will be taken into places that you could not have imagined. You go there looking for something, except that thing, other things will appear. Because kshetras are living, breathing spaces. They will decide if you are ready, they will pull you in. So when you go there, after this session, don't go home and Google what all to see in Kanchipuram. First of all, you will only get idlis in your results. When you go with this consumerist attitude, no, it is detrimental to sadhana. Go with the idea of, I am coming here, you show me what you want to show me. I recently met somebody who said something so beautiful to me. She said, I went to Kanchipuram last month, and when I went, I felt like I was pampered by the divine. I don't know why, but I didn't have one difficulty. It was the first time I was traveling. I'm not from the southern parts of the country. I don't speak the language. I'm not familiar with the temples. I'm not familiar with the practices. But I went there and I felt like I was going to my mother's home, and the things I saw, I'm deeply grateful. That is a sadhaka lakshana. That you go like that saying, I'm going to my mother's house. She'll show me what I have to see. That I'm mentioning all of this to talk about how tapas reveals certain things to certain people. Prema reveals things to people also. Love reveals things. So that tapas and prema incarnated as Mahapariva. So when Mahapariva was doing tapas, he revealed to all of us that in Upanishad Brahmendra Swami's Matham, there are 2 places, 2 lingas that he identified. One is Hayagriveshwara, which is a linga that is established by Hayagriva Muni, and the second is Agasthyeshwara. They both are facing each other. That's the beauty. Because Hayagriva gave Agastya the entire Sahasranamam. That's there in the Matham till today. You can go there and do your sadhana. That is the place where the Lalita Sahasranamam was given as it is. It was not handed as a textbook. It was handed as an Upadesham. You go with that bhavam. It will appear like that to you. So, all of this is happening in which place? Kanchipuram. Why Kanchipuram? What did I say? What part of the cow's body does this correspond to? Nabhi. That Nabhi Sthanam, where all of this, the Nabhi is the Poshana Sthanam. Nabhi also, for those of you interested in yoga, corresponds to the Manipura Chakram. Manipura Chakram, when a sadhaka, what is the first chakram that we come across? Mooladhara Chakram. From Mooladhara till Manipura, Manipura marks the upward movement of Kundalini. So what you see in yogic sadhana is Manipura is here at the navel, right? The navel onwards, all of these in the body are counted as Urdhva Lokas, or the realms above. Below is Adholokas. Adholokas are lokas that take us downward. So sadhana, once it crosses the Manipura Chakram, this Manipura Chakram is an important portion, more important than the phone ringing, don't worry. These distractions exist. Your objective is to stay focused on the Manipura Chakram. Once it reaches this point, whether it goes back down or up is very important. The Devatas come here and do sadhana, meaning you reach the Manipura Chakram and have that faith that I want to go ahead, the Kundalini will rise. The same idea you will see in the Devi Mahatmyam or the Durga Saptashati. In the Durga Saptashati, when all the Devatas are troubled by Mahishasura, they go to Brahmadeva and they so beautifully, the words indicate the chakram. It says Padma Yonim Prajapatim. They go and they seek surrender in Padma Yonim Prajapatim. The one who emerged Padma Yoni, he is in the womb of a lotus that came from Vishnu's Nabhi. Nabhi here is Manipura Chakra. That's all it is. The idea that once you go there and you seek that resolute will, saying I want to increase in my sadhana, she'll take care of it. So Kanchipuram is meant for that. Kanchipuram is meant for you to strengthen your sadhana, to go towards what you want. What you want is Kama, and she will give it to you not in small measures. Whatever you go, please underline this and register it in your head, in your heart more. Whatever you go there and offer with love, she will give it back to you in Koti Gunitam. Your desire, Amma, I want to have a healthy relationship with so and so. I'm coming here and I will maintain that relationship with you. You go there and make that relationship with the divine will bless you with Koti Gunita Phalam of that kind. That is why it is called as Kama Koti. What you seek, you go there and offer. What you seek, you have to offer first. This is a beautiful philosophy. If you want to be left with any richness, you have to donate. Because in the end, the only thing that we are left with is what we gave, not what we took. That is what kshetras are for. They are there for that sadhana. Go there and give your prana. Give some amount of time every year where you say, I will go there and I will sit. I will just sit and be waiting for whatever magic happens. Because this kshetram is not only a magical kshetram, it is the most playful kshetram that exists. Because I told you that a little girl went inside. This little girl is Bala. Bala Tripura Sundari is the child form of the goddess. She is only child in appearance. No other part of her is any less in Shakti. But if you do Bala Upasana, the beauty of Bala Upasana is, you know what? We have three main forms of Bala Upasana that we do for different devatas. In Shakta cultures, Bala Upasana is worshipping the goddess as a 9-year-old girl. You would have also seen this in the context of Navaratri where you do Kanya Puja. In Vaishnavam, worshipping Vishnu as a little boy, who do we do that for? Krishna. In Shaivam, who do we worship little Shiva as? We don't see a Bala Shiva. That's a more modern calendar print that we are seeing. But basically it is Bala Kumaraswamy, Bala Subramanya or Bala Ganapati. These two forms are considered equivalent of Bala Shiva. Why do we have child forms of all the goddess, of all these gods? Why is the story harping on Kanya becoming Kamakshi? Because Bala Tattvam, the essence of a child is very endearing in nature. When she is in that absolute form, for us to relate to her is difficult. But when she comes as a child, anything that a child does is endearing. That is why Vishnu, when we talk as Shankha Chakra Gada Padmadhari, is very difficult for us to understand. But the same Vishnu, when he comes as Krishna, suddenly we want to feed him a little butter. Suddenly his antics become very lovable. Because Bala Upasana makes Paramatma accessible for us. That is the link. To understand this, you have to go to Vrindavan. He is not Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda Nayaka for Vrindavan Vasis. For Vrajavasis, he's Mira Kanhaiya. He's my little boy. And I want to make sure that my Kutti Kanhaiya is slept well. You go now in the next few months, you will see once winter comes in Vrindavan, across all the temples, they will put sweaters and ensure that his ears are covered. They'll ensure that his hands, which are playing the flute, at night time, they'll put the flute away and say, no, it's cold. No, your hands have to be cold. Your hands have to be warm. When you look from the perspective of serious sadhana, you will say, what is this? The Lord of endless galaxies is being given a sweater. No, the idea is in Bala Upasana, you have forgotten he's God. In Bala Upasana, you pulled him closer and you made him yours. That is what Bala Krishna Upasana will do. That is what Bala Tripura Sundari Upasana will do. That is one aspect. Second, Bala Upasana equals Prana Upasana. Worshipping our pranas. Our Prana Shakti is the closest thing that we have access to. Bala is the closest goddess that we have access to. 9 years of age. That 9 has a beautiful symbolism even in terms of the idea of the Navavarna Chakram. The Sri Chakram has 9 different enclosures. Bala is present in the center of that. Bala is present, Kamakshi is present. Bala went inside, Kamakshi came outside. You think of Bala and you go inside here, you open your eyes, you will see Kamakshi all around. That is the beautiful idea that is communicated over here. Bala Upasana, you can see it in Kanchipuram. Why I said it is a magical kshetram is because Bala moves, walks and plays in Kanchipuram. There are so many extraordinary episodes of people, of not just anyone who goes there, but the priests themselves, who on certain occasions have opened, there are YouTube interviews about this. The Pradhana Archaka himself has said when he opened the doors of the Kamakshi Mandiram one morning, there was a parrot inside there. When he closed it the night before, the parrot was not there. Bala Tattva. Bala is moving and walking around in Kanchipuram. How do you go there and find her? You find her by just being willing to see her magic at work. There is this kind of upasana, this Bala Upasana is not something that is small. There is this notion that, oh yes, Bala Upasana, even in terms of mantram, there is a Bala mantram, and then there are various mantrams in the Sri Vidya Krama, in the Sri Vidya school. There is this idea that some people have that yes, Bala mantram is little less than. So there is this kinchit ahankaram that comes. Bala mantram is not any less than the Shodashi or the Panchadashi mantram. Bala mantram is equivalent to them. It is just giving it to you in a digestible format. That's all it is. But if you go to Kanchipuram, you'll experience this. When you go there, the kind of magic that you will see, I generally, and I say I also with great hesitation on a public platform, because I do not want to make this about the speaker, but to give you an instance of how powerful the kshetram is for Bala's Leelas. There was one particular time when I had gone to Kanchipuram, and every thought that I had, Bala was playing with that thought. I was sitting in the Sannidhi of Kamakshi. Kamakshi was further ahead and the Gayatri Mantapam was in front. I did not step into the Gayatri Mantapam. I will tell you why in just a few minutes. But I was sitting here and I could see her, but I did not go to take prasadam because I did not want to step inside the Mantapam. And I knew that there is a certain reason that one doesn't go there. The reason is as simple as this. The Gayatri Mantapam is above the Bilam. It is above the Mahabilam. So when you step inside the Gayatri Mantapam, you are stepping on Devi's body. This is not encouraged. Brahmadeva himself, when he went back after seeing all of this Mahima of Kanchipuram happening, when he went back to Satyaloka, he lost his eyesight. And he wondered, why am I not able to see? At that time, Saraswati told him, this has happened to you because you stepped into the Mahabilam. The only prayashchittam for this is, you have to do a Sri Chakra Puja or you have to do Darshanam of Bangaru Kamakshi, Swarna Kamakshi. Swarna Kamakshi used to be next to Kamakshi, now she is in Tanjavur. But I am specifically mentioning this in the interest of those who get caught inside when they go. We live in commercial times. So everybody is trying to make a quick buck. So when you go inside the Kamakshi temple, there is a great tendency, if somebody calls you inside saying, come, you pay an extra 100 rupees, you can be inside there. Do not fall prey to that. You cannot step into that area unless you are performing an Abhishekam for the goddess. If you are performing an Abhishekam with the Sankalpam, then you can step in. If you have stepped in unknowingly, do not panic. This is not fear mongering that I am doing. Simply bow down in Namaskaram. If you have the opportunity to go to Tanjavur, she is there as Swarna Kamakshi. Go there and say, I'm sorry, I didn't intend to step on you. If you say, I didn't intend to step on you, by mistake also if you have, she'll let you go. Padasparsham kshamasvame. This is what we say every morning. So that bhavam, I didn't want to go inside there because I knew this at that point. But I hadn't taken even kumkum prasadam. And I was chanting. And I was thinking, how am I going to leave this temple now without taking prasadam? If I have to go take prasadam, I have to step inside the Gayatri Mandapam. If I step inside the Gayatri Mandapam, I am stepping on you. What do I do? And as I was at the last few names of the Sahasranamam, Abala Gopa Vidhita, Sarva Durlankhya Shasana, when I was there, a 5-year-old boy, 5 or 4, some small little boy, came up to me with a handful of kumkum. He came, he was walking with his father, exiting after darshanam. He walked up the steps, came to where I was, filled my forehead with kumkum and walked off. Who he was, I don't need to know because that is Bala Upasana. That is Bala Kataksham. That is not, it's not fair for me to say it is Upasana. But next time when you go with this bhava. Don't go waiting for a miracle to happen. Go just waiting to see what is happening in this place. When you go like this, the magic that you will see is Bala. Bala is playful. Bala Krishna is playful only, no? All of Vrindavana's Leelas are about that, no? Same thing here in Kanchipuram. She plays with her devotees. And the way she will play is that she will choose, the outfits that she chooses will also appear like that. There's one very beautiful story of Mahaperiva and how he was performing Kamakshi Puja one particular day. This wasn't even in Kanchipuram, but Kamakshi is Bala. So she will become a little girl when she wants to, and that little girl is extremely demanding, but she is also very crafty. So when Mahaperiva was about to begin his puja for Kamakshi, he noticed that the sari of Kamakshi was torn. Now he decided that first of all there was a host of bhaktas already there. So he felt, now if I tell the archakas that the sari is torn, we have to change the sari, these devotees will be made to wait. So let's not, I'll begin the puja. He began the puja, and when he started the puja, somebody from the other end of where the devotees were screamed out saying she wanted to meet Mahaperiva. So all of the people, all of his immediate shishyas said no, they do not have entry here, this person cannot come in. She insisted. Mahaperiva could hear what was happening, far away sitting here. So he said, let her come straight in. And she came in a torn sari. Immediately Mahaperiva told one of the archakas, bring a new sari and bring other abharanas and let it be given to this lady. So they were given and she went out. Mahaperiva knows who she is. But for us as ordinary humans, no, human tendencies come in. First tendency for somebody, Mahaperiva gave off that sari, but you know what people like this do? They won't even wear it, they'll go sell it on the next street. I know, that's why we shouldn't give them. See, I want to do charity, but I know how these people take advantage of our kindness. Yes or no, you've thought like that or not? He's Shishya only. I'm not talking about some Purana Kalam story, I'm talking about something that happened very recently. So, when this happened, this Shishya, without telling Mahaperiva, followed this lady. He followed her out to see what she will do with the sari. Doubt the divine and the divine will give it back to you. He walked, followed her for some time. She crossed the road and she was about to go into a temple. He ran after her. When he ran after her, at the gate of the temple, he himself has said this. He felt like somebody slapped him on his cheek and he fell down. After a few minutes, he got up, realized what had happened, that somebody had hit him, and he went back to Mahaperiva. He narrated this entire thing and then bowed down and realized she walked into the temple because she was none other than Kamakshi herself. Kamakshi as Bala came out from that temple, came and took a new sari from Mahaperiva and went back. In between, one doubt also she cleared for somebody saying, don't question my ways. This is a beautiful lesson on multiple things. One is it talks about Kshetra Mahima. In a Kshetram, if Kamakshi has to appear, she's not going to come with an Aadhaar card for you and a sugarcane bow. She will appear in the most unsuspecting of ways. It is in your samskaram, your jiva samskaram that makes you bow down and say, every form here is a divine form. I don't know who is who. Anyone can be a devata. That swarupam if you have, no, the way she will give anugraham is extraordinary. That's what, that idea that when you just look and you wait for her to come, she will come. There was one bhakta who also waited like that for her, and he stood sitting at her Garbhagudi in front of the Gayatri Mandapam. Day after day he would sit, but you know what, he couldn't speak. He was mute, and despite this muteness, he had no dearth of love for her. Love is the only prerequisite to stand in front of her, not mantram, not tantram, not yantram, none of those things. That love will not stop when anything else stops in your body. But this kept him back because he couldn't chant. But he still sat there. And on one fine day, on his left hand side, a Veda Pandit was also sitting, reading out various Vedic suktas and mantras for the goddess. After some point of time, to this boy's delight, this is a young boy whom this happened to, this mute boy is watching in absolute awe as she stepped out straight from the Garbhagudi, walking Marali Mandagamana Mahalavanya Shevadhi. Marali Mandagamana, she walks like a swan is walking slowly. That is the gait that she has. When you think of Kamakshi, you have to think of her moving because she moves. Kamakshi is a moving goddess. She is sitting, but within that seating, last year in Saundarya Lahari we spoke about this. The waistband that she has, the bells on that waistband are also jingling. So this moving goddess, not only are these waistband and these anklets jingling, now she is walking towards these two people. And when she walked towards them, she opened her mouth. That time when I was describing the Swarupam of Kamakshi, I said she had something in her mouth. Not chewing gum. What was it? That tambulam that she was chewing, that tambulam, she took out that tambulam from her mouth. When she took out that tambulam from her mouth, she looked at the Veda Pandit. The Veda Pandit is externalizing all that he has learnt about Vedam, about Parabrahma Tattvam. Now Parabrahma Swarupini has come in front of him and she has offered him tambulam. You know how he reacted? He said, "Chi, a woman's soiled, who will eat? I don't want." And he turned his mouth away. Rahasyam of Kshetrams, Rahasyam of Devatas. If you are not interested in the divine is also not interested in you. The divine will not say, "Please take it, Raja, I am Kamakshi." She will immediately shift her gaze to the people who want it. She looked at that boy. No mantram, no tantram, no yantram, no anushtanam, just love. And he looked like this, and she looked at him with the tambulam that she had half chewed, and she looked at him, asking, signaling with her eyes, "Do you want to eat it?" He, without a hesitation, opened his mouth and he said, "Place it." The second she placed it, the power of that tambulam made him compose 500 shlokas in that very spot. That 500 shlokas that he composed, today we know as the Muka Panchashati. Extraordinary shlokas. 100 shlokas about her eyes, 100 shlokas about her smile, 100 shlokas, Padaravinda Shatakam, about her beautiful lotus-like feet. Where does that come from? For somebody who could not speak, how did he come up with such extraordinary Sanskritam poetry? That is the power of that tambul. Who does it appear to? It appeared, what is the only qualification that he needed? Love. Love alone is the qualifier. And with that, not only did he compose this, he became the Peethadipati of the Moolamnaya Peetham, of the Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham. He became one of the Shankaras in that lineage. This Shankaracharya himself was the fourth incarnation of Shiva in Kali Yuga. He said, "I will come as Durvasa first, then I will come as Parashurama, then as Dhaumya in Dwapara Yuga, and finally in Kali Yuga, I will come as Muka Shankara." That Muka Shankara is this being. In every aspect of Kanchipuram, divinity is waiting, it's breathing. Muka Shankara still roams in Kanchipuram. You don't need to see his alayam to know this. You just have to go there with that bhava. Anything that you do it with that sincerity, the divinity responds. There is one very beautiful story about how in Kanchipuram, one act that was performed with love, unknowingly, gave a downpour of a very unique kind. So there is this Raja called Akasha Raja. This Akasha Raja is different from Padmavati's father Akasha Raja. There are multiple people with the same name. Akasha Raja, for whatever reason, was drawn to other faiths and went through his own journey of recognizing what worked for him. And finally, he came back to Kanchipuram, and by Kamakshi's blessing, he was blessed with a son who is considered similar to Vinayaka. His son's name also was Tunda, Vakratunda. So they named him as Tunda. Now, after this boy was born, the boy was a little boy, and the king was advised to perform a feast, to do an Annasantarpan. And during the occasion of this Annadanam, the king had, what do we do in an Annadanam? Before the Annadanam is performed, the people who are coming to eat, you worship them. Again, lessons in humility. All of these kathas, on one hand, are all the miraculous happenings. Second is, how are they teaching you to behave? The one who is giving supposedly charity has to operate from a space of humility. It cannot be, "Naan kodta idin tago." That attitude doesn't work here. So when this king was worshipping, he was worshipping all the people who were coming to receive that food, and he worshipped with great love and with great reverence, and he did Suvasini Puja. Suvasini Puja, as many of you know, is a form of worshipping the mother goddess, of worshipping Devi within the feminine. All of these physical ladies as Devi Swarupams, all of them sat down, all these Suvasini sat down to eat. All of them were eating. There was one Suvasini, old and wearing tattered clothes, not in her best finery, evidently not somebody from a very higher economic strata of society, quietly sitting in one corner and eating. She ate her first morsel of food, and immediately there was a downpour. There was a rain in Kanchipuram, and not an ordinary rain. There was a rain of gold. Everybody is confused. I know this story we'll all remember because rain, gold, Kanakadhara, all this we like. But the story is telling us something powerful. The king is confused. The king doesn't go out immediately to celebrate the rain. He's wondering, how did something unnatural happen here? This is not ordinary. And that son of his, who was in the cradle, that little Tunda, who is none other than Vakratunda, came out of the cradle, came to his father, and he said, I know how this happened. When the food was being cooked for the Suvasinis, at that point, one smaller than the size of a sand grain, a small grain of gold fell into the dal, into the green gram, and it got mixed up with this. When that was offered, this particular Suvasini ate that, and what was given to her with love, she rained back down onto this land. That Suvasini is none other than Kamakshi. That Kamakshi sent a downpour. Why? Because he did one act of service with love. That is Kamakshi Tattva. Kamakshi's Katha, on one hand, is what Purana is telling you. On the second hand, on the more important, relevant hand, it is talking to you about the power of offering. That is why this place is Kamakoti Pitham. He gave her, unknowingly, he gave her gold. She sent down Kanaka Vrishti. She sent down a Kanaka Abhishekam. That if you do something for her, ordinarily, if we do it in our homes itself, it has that much meaning that she manifests. Imagine in the space of her land, when you go there and you offer one thing, the child within her recognizes. If you give a child something, that is a non-pampered child. If you give a child something, they receive it with love. They recognize the bhavam with which you gave it. That is why if you scream and give a child something, they won't take it. This child is also like that. If you give this child with disinterest and say, take this Naivedyam just because you have to take it, the child won't take it. The child is not interested in your Naivedyams and your offerings. The child is interested in your bhavam. You give your bhavam to her, she will reveal herself to you. That bhavam is what we have to develop towards Kamakshi. And I think with that, there is lots more that we can keep talking about Kanchi Mahima. But this is not even Kanchi Mahima. We just said Kamakshi Katha, because Kamakshi Katha itself, I covered about 1/4 of what I had planned to cover today. Because she wanted us to pause here to recognize that all we have to do is recognize two forms. There are three. How many forms? I gave the answer before I asked. Okay. Tell me what those three are. Simply you will say. First form that came. Bala became. How many hands? Ashtadasha Bhuja, 18. Then became Kamakshi. Look at these three forms. All these three forms. Bala, Durga, Lalita. All these three forms came in the 9 days that went by. Bala Puja on any day of Navaratri, Lalita on Panchami especially, Durga on all days, especially Ashtami. All these Swarupams, multiple manifestations of one truth. When she has to come innocently and sit and say, yes, I want new clothes, she'll be Bala. Don't underestimate that same Bala. That same Bala can go and become 18-handed, kill the negative tendencies that need to be killed, and then come back and then take a stance of firmness and say, keep me positioned in this Pranava Pitham, in this space of your heart, create a platform. On that platform, which is supported by different faith systems, Shadamnaya, there, keep the 24 syllables of the Gayatri Mantra, keep them reverberating. Within that, let the Omkaram settle into your heart, and in the center of that Omkaram, open the doors of your heart, and you will find me there, holding the sugarcane bow, the 5 arrows, the pasha and the ankusha. All of these I will use to make your mind work. Manorupekshu kodanda. As a sign of your mind, I will hold this bow. As a sign of anger, krodhakara ankushojvala. I will hold the ankusha as the sign of anger. Ragasvarupa pashadhya. holding the pasha as a sign of love. Love is the pasha, hatred is the ankusha, meaning these two things the mind is always working on. Either we love or we hate. Within this spectrum lies all other emotions, and these are happening through the 5 senses that we are constantly using. We see someone, we like them or we don't like them. Seeing is an arrow that hits us because of the eyes at work. Liking, disliking, all of this is happening because of the bow called the mind in place. So the one that is responsible for every single thought that we are having within us, she is constantly working by firing those arrows. That goddess, all we have to do is ask her, who are you? And there starts the katha within. With that bhavam, I'd like all of us to go back home this Vijayadashami onwards, taking Kamakshi with us and taking that little girl who is also going to accompany us, who is Kamakshi's pranam, who is that Bala Tripura Sundari. Where Bala's name is said, Bala Leelas will follow. So within this home also, take my words for it, Jyotsna, you will see her Leelas at work. And her Leelas go from extraordinary things like hiding keys, to hiding clothes, to suddenly showing them in different places. These are at an ordinary level for people in love with her to see that she is at work. When we see that, all we have to recognize is Bala is here, and Bala's footsteps never leave the home and the heart where she is thought of. And for so very long, Jyotsnaka has wanted Kamakshi Katha to come, and Devi chose this day to manifest. So all of us are lucky because of that sankalpam that emerged through this Dampati. So with a note of sincere gratitude, because there is no better way to spend a Parvakala than through Katha Smaranam, and to all of you and the Kamakshis in your heart who are sitting here and who pulled you here to be present, utmost gratitude. May that Kamakshi always shine in the Kamakoti Peetham of the heart. Sarvam Shri Kanchi Kamakoti Peetheshwari Padara Vindarpanamastu Swasti.